Oklahoma State has some dudes in the portal. We may not have very many dudes on the football field, but we could land a dude in the coaching ranks that isn't really being talked about. Thank you, Billy Napier.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome into this crossover edition because we're going to talk about portal. We are going to talk about recruiting. Thanks for making this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State and the Portal Pod himself. Brian Smith is going to join the show to help us break some of this down. We are in a coaching search. Brian, Zach Robinson has been a very popular name. G.J. Kinney has been a very popular trending name. And if you look at the Vegas odds, those are the top two dudes. We've covered those guys. We've also covered the fact that we had some donors involved, and we took a swing at Gus Malzahn. We took a swing at John Gruden. We had some deeper conversations with some Dana Holgorsen types. But Alex Golesh, who has Oklahoma State connections, is not getting talked about a lot, but that's in your neck of the woods. He recruits your territory, so you've had a lot of guys that you've covered that have committed to UCF, gone to UCF, transferred there, so on and so forth. Give us the little skinny on what Oklahoma State could potentially get if Alex Golesh is a name that heats up a little bit more.
Unlike most of the coaches that come from the quote-unquote G6 or whatever, he understands recruiting. USF is a gold mine. It's on the north edge of Tampa. I mean, like, I lived in Tampa, right down the road, and now they're finally building a stadium. That was the holdback, so that's helped them a little. But they were still dead, and they're still playing at the same place the Bucks do. They got red seats with green uniforms. It's not a good look. It's hard to win there until they get that stadium and all that stuff done. But they're physical. Most G6 teams are not.
Right. Yeah. Good call. Good call.
If you take nothing else away from my commentary about Golesh, for whatever reason, he's taken a bunch of transfers, gotten them to mesh in the trenches, and they're at least competitive. Now, they didn't run Florida over, but they were just about as successful as anybody else. Like, Florida's front is legit. I know their offense has been, at best, lukewarm this year.
Right.
That defensive front's got NFL players. Their defensive backs hit, all that stuff. And they gave them a lot of problems. So he understands how to put together a game plan. He understands 2-minute offense. And I'll just go ahead and say it. Even a lot of the elite P4 coaches suck at time management at the end of a half or a game. Golesh is not like that. It drives me nuts. There are so many coaches that are awful at it. Pointing to a guy in Boulder, Colorado, by the way, is terrible at it.
That was the biggest reason I was not interested in Gus Malzahn, because he has a track record of bad game management, especially in fourth quarters, not taking timeouts or punting on your own 35-yard line. Some of the things that Gundy did early on as well, I must admit. So the game management aspect of it has been frustrating. But you know what? They did beat Florida. They did beat the ever-living tar out of Boise State. So everybody out here, you might want to go check out Alex Golesh at a game, because he could be the next Cowboy head coach. And obviously today we're partially brought to you by Game Time. Make sure that you download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so you mentioned one of the things that I wanted to hit on is not only the game management thing, but he was able to take a transfer portal roster, right? Yeah. Get them to buy in, to build some semblance of a culture at USF, to where now they're a ranked football team that is a legitimate contender to not only win their conference, but be a spot placement for the CFP if they continue with this trajectory. Oklahoma State, however, we brought in a bunch of dudes, which we're going to elaborate more on in the second half. So knowing that Oklahoma State failed miserably in getting a big-ass transfer crew together and it not come into fruition, do you think that's something that Oklahoma State should be looking at strategically, is a program builder kind of guy that does have some Oklahoma State connects, that is proven to be able to make the transfer thing work? Because the transfer thing thus far in Stillwater has been a disaster.
You need to see what it looks like. And this is what I'm not going to name the coach, but I was on the sidelines 2 springs ago next to a prominent assistant coach, and there was a group of us that are reporters, all knew him, and we were talking about the portal, elite recruits, how all that worked. He said it's real simple. When you get in, you either have to do certain things or you're gone. And he didn't care if it was a high school kid or a portal kid. The program he's at right now is elite. I'll give you a hint. It's top 5. But they're and they've earned it. That's just true. And one of the things they're not doing at the school that he's at, if a kid transfers from a major program, SEC or whatever, that's fine. But they do their due diligence, and it's okay if they take them. But they're just as happy to take a kid from a La Tech as they are from LSU or Ohio State. It's the film you put on with the portal in particular that's most important. Look at Indiana last year as another example.
Yeah.
They had the inside track. They took a bunch of kids from the school they were at, so they knew them, but they took mostly G5 kids. They went 11-1. I know they didn't win the title or something, but it's Indiana. That's arguably the worst program in the last 50 years of the P4. It is right there.
Yeah.
I know.
They're competition for Kansas before Leipold, for sure.
Yeah, it's right there. So the point is, you got to understand not just the talent on film, how to read the room off the field. And here's the problems that I'm not normally going to talk about much. I won't name people, but it's real simple. If the film's good, that's the very first part. Who do they hang out with? Who's their agent? Do they have a third uncle? Are they going to cause you locker room problems? Because right now I know that's a problem in Stillwater. Yeah. And I know you've talked about it on your show.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, I also run Locked On Seminoles. Holy cow, did they have problems last year?
Thank you for that segue. I was about to say,
there it is.
You're talking about the teams that successfully brought in a bunch of portal dudes, and then we got Florida Stated this year. That's what we did. We chased helmet stickers. We got guys from Tennessee and Florida and LSU and UCLA, and we didn't obviously do the due diligence. We trusted that Todd Grantham, with all of his SEC connections, was going to bring in an SEC roster, and we were going to have an SEC defense, but instead we are horrendous. Brian, how does this happen? How does Oklahoma State go from a perennial top 15 program to Kansas level dumpster? Like, I know things obviously didn't go well in the portal process, but what do you, just for conjecture purposes, what do you think went so wrong in this portal class for Oklahoma State? Because you saw it with Florida State.
Right. Well, with Florida State last year, it's pretty simple. Alabama, Auburn, Clemson, Georgia, Florida State all recruit the same kids in that circle. They all recruit them. So all the coaches know the kids. A handful of the guys didn't make it at quote unquote 2 schools you might have heard of, Alabama and Georgia.
Right.
Everybody wanted them, but Georgia, they didn't, from what I was told, this was a red flag. Kirby knows evaluations, obviously.
Right.
He didn't fight for some of them to stay. And when I heard that, I was like, that made me very nervous. Same thing with Saban with Alabama. And I was like, One of them has done okay at Florida State. He's been a starter. Another one actually went to Florida State and transferred to Oklahoma this year. He's okay. But everybody else is straight off the cliff. And these are all 4- and 5-star guys. So it goes back to my conversation with the coach unnamed. Either you get it or you don't. That's simple as it gets. And some of the kids they were happy to put on the uniform and sign the check. You don't know until you get there. But when Kirby doesn't fight for kids, there's nobody more starved for talent than Kirby. He's as hard a worker as there is in recruiting of anybody in the country. When he let guys walk out the door, Cody, what's that tell you? What does that tell you, brother? Beware.
They were never going to be a fit.
Yeah.
And let's be fair. Georgia, they broke they're trying to break records a couple of years ago with the driving while slightly inebriated. God. Yeah. And so let's be fair. Georgia does typically have a little bit of a longer leash, right? So 100%. If Georgia's telling you to get the flip out of Dodge or they're not trying to keep you, then that means you shattered that leash that was already fairly long to begin with. And you're right. Some of these coaches thought that it would be a reclamation project by bringing them to Stillwater. And the culture that Mike Gundy built, we can say whatever we want about Gundy, negative or positive, but one of the most positive things was that cowboy culture that you heard about. You could be a 2-star from Tishomingo, and you could, in 3 years, put yourself in all Big 12, end up in the NFL. That cowboy culture, that blue collar, show up on work every day, punch people in the mouth repeatedly, get in a fist fight in a phone booth with the competition. But instead, we're doing that crap in the locker room. And we've got dudes that they know they're going to make $25,000 a month, whether they have 1 tackle, 0 tackles, 25 tackles. You're just now starting to see some of the backups that, are the cowboy culture dudes. They're starting to play now, but it's kind of almost too little too late. And we're having a difficult time just managing the roster. And before we get to an ad in segment 2 real quick, I covered on this. Is it normal for schools, for players to ask for a red shirt to stay at the same school?
No, it depends on the circumstance. Like if they really want that major, or if they just really want to be like that their dad went there, etc. It's really subjective to the person. You'll see some guys that will ask for the red shirt now because they don't know too. They're going to wait to see who Oak State hires. If the fit, like if you're a certain kind of receiver that's the little SWAT speedy guy, and you guys go with the pro style offense, he gone.
Right.
Because he's going to get by. They're probably waiting, and they're like, I don't want to hang out with these morons that you were just talking about that are, not. So they don't want to, they're just going to practice, stay in shape, do the best they can. And if they hire the right guy, they'll stay. If not, they'll get in the portal.
Well, let me ask you this. Why would some powers that be allow some dudes to redshirt to stay, but tell some other dudes that, no, you can't do that. If you try to redshirt, you're going to lose your NIL. Like what would be the leveraging there?
Yeah.
That's a thing that I don't, because I know it's happening. We've got some players that are like leading the team in statistical categories that have requested to redshirt to stay. And we're told, no, it'll affect your NIL. And then we have other dudes that asked for the same thing. And they said, yeah, absolutely. We'll redshirt you. You keep your NIL and you can come back for the new staff. What would be the differentiation between the two?
I'm glad you asked. This is almost 100% of the time back office business stuff. These are most likely, I can't guarantee it, but these are going to be the variations. These are the guys with the third uncle that are calling every other week for something else. These are the guys that are constantly causing problems, not going to class, or they cause problems in the locker room, etc. And then, of course, if they're really good and they don't want to play right now, they need them to, because Oklahoma State needs to win at least a few more games.
Okay.
They're going to be pretty mad. I mean, that's just pride. I don't have any problem with that. But it's the other ones that are most likely. The third uncle thing, that's a problem in college football right now. And that's why a lot of guys like Gus Malzahn don't want to be a head coach anymore. Straight up.
Well, I must admit, I've been accused of being one of those third uncle individuals. So this is a perfect time to run into a little segue here, because if you can't capitalize on Oklahoma State, there's still other ways that you can capitalize in the monetary gains department this football season. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Prize Picks is here to help you capitalize on this season. It's the funnest way for you to get involved into the betting action. Whenever you get squared away today with Prize Picks, they're going to allow you to help make decisions every day that helps amplify your possibilities. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is so much fun. It's a simple way to add so much more to your daily fantasy. It's pretty simplistic, right? It's more than or less than. So you go and pick your favorite players, whether it be a group of 2 to 6. For Oklahoma State fans, is this the week that Jaylen Warren finally pops off and the Steelers make something crazy happen? Can he put up over 100 yards with some splitting duties? On the other side of the ball, is this the time where Nick Martin goes absolutely crazy for the 49ers? Can he get more than or less than, let's say, 3 tackles? Let's say he can get in on the sack department. Prize Picks is going to help you with all of that. This is the best way for you to get into the betting action, because it's pretty simplistic. So download Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $50 in lineups after your first $5 hauler. Get with Prize Picks, because it's good to be right with Prize Picks. All right, buddy, we'll jump right back into this conversation. So the portal has obviously begun, and the players are going to have a window. I think you could almost even say only having a handful of players already enter the portal is encouraging, right? And thus far, we did have former 4-star Michael Riles, who turned down A&M to come to Oklahoma State. That is a loss. I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. Safety David Kabongo seemingly was one of those cowboy culture guys that was always on time, that was always doing the extra work. Him in the portal is bothersome more often than not. The other guys, I'm just going to be honest with you, haven't really affected me much. Dylan Smith, he's had some cool moments, a big-time Bedlam tackle, but Demarion Thomas hasn't exactly worked out. There's going to be some other dudes, but here's the caveat. Here's my concern, and you can help elaborate. I'm blessed to be able to get tickets from multiple players through the games, right, which is great because I don't have to pay for tickets. But acquiring tickets for this homecoming matchup coming up against Cincinnati is proving to be difficult, and here's the reason why. I'm being told we're bringing our whole family to this game because it might be our last homecoming ever. And I'm talking about the loyal and true bleed orange would run through a brick wall to represent Oklahoma State style of individuals. They're not saying they're going to leave, but there are people that are clearly making homecoming a massive concerted effort because they may not ever see one again in Stillwater. That's concerning. Am I concerned about having 5 or 6 dudes in the portal? No, I'm not. Am I concerned about David Kabongo having connections to like 6 other guys that he came in with? Yeah, that could be slightly problematic. But the biggest problem is if families are coming in droves for homecoming because they may never get to see another one, that has me concerned, buddy.
Well, unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of the beast. It's ironic that you bring this up, and I'm not trying to pick on your Cowboys, but there are other programs that are at least somewhat in the same boat. And in about 2 weeks, once we get, let's just use easy math here, October 20th, you'll be 2/3 of the way through the month. Oklahoma State will be joined by 4 or 5 more schools. And for the record, if it wasn't for contracts, a guy in Tallahassee that I cover, a guy in Happy Valley who's got a contract even bigger than the one in Tallahassee, and a guy possibly in LA, the only reason they're not getting fired is because of their buyouts. So this, like they're 50 million plus, and the one in LA is around 100. Ugh, that's rough. So yeah, they paid over like 130, 140 million for Riley. It's dumb, but that's USC's fault. The point is still the same. These kids are going to be looking at it, and they're probably going to leave. I get it, but you have to plan that way. You plan for the worst, and if it goes right, you stick around. If they haven't entered yet, again, this is why, and I know there's a lot of arguments for this, this is why firing a coach early can actually work out. If you think you have a hold on your roster, big if, and you could at least talk to them and or their parents, their high school coach, trainer, whatever, we're in that world with 7-on-7, all that stuff matters. If you can at least get them to the table and say, here are the X number of coaches we're looking at, Golesh, Zach Robinson, I think GJ Kinney, he's a guy I know. When he was at UCF, I covered him. Super guy. He would fit in Stillwater. He's an East Texas guy.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's the guy I would hire, but that's just my opinion. The point is still the same. You have to get somebody soon. And even if it's not public, you can tell players A, B, and C that you want to keep on your roster. Hey, look, we can't put this out because there's a lot of political garbage we got to go through, but here's the guy. Are you interested? So we can, start planning for your NIL and everybody else's. This is a business. But I don't blame the families at this point for looking at homecoming as an event that they may not be able to go to again. I get it. That's how they should plan. I know that's not as an Oak State fan what you want to hear, but if you're them, what else are you going to do? So to me, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, the key is not getting a coach, it's getting one that the players, the current players, respect. And then, of course, then it extends to your recruiting class. It's in that order. Because if all the players bail, even the kids that are committed that want to go there, they're going to be like, wait a minute, what's going on? So it's the players on your roster that are first. If you do not retain, the words dumpster fire come to mind. Real quick. So, and I know you understand that. We talk about schools all the time. For people that don't know, like I'll be messing with Cody, like, man, this team sucks. What's going on over here? Like, we don't hold back. But it's possible Oak State could jump into that. They're close now, but the real definition of it is when your players just leave. Because then there's no option. You're basically a G6 team for a couple of years in a P4 league. We both know how that's going to go. So,
well, and that's why I was perplexed that we're allowing like tight ends to redshirt to stay, but we're telling guys on the defensive side of the ball, no, you can't do that. And if you do that, it'll affect your NIL. We can't run the football. So why are we allowing tight ends to redshirt when we can't run the flipping, fracking football, Brian? I mean, yes, defensively, it's a massive struggle bus as well. I get that. But I mean, what's happening right now is confusing. And the portal window for the guys that were immediately leaving, it's only 30 days, right? So we're 2 weeks into this, and we've only had like 5 guys enter. But it sounds like that there's a lot that are kind of waiting to see, like you said, about the coaching determinations. You mentioned GJ Kinney. So before we get to the next segment, whenever you're in a coaching search, you're always grasping for things. You see people track the flights and you try to kind of make a distinguishment of what that could mean. Well, Oklahoma State got their first commit in quite some time yesterday. And one of my buddies tweeted out a picture of the Texas State logo and said, this guy seemed to have Texas State in his like top 5. And that recruit sent or liked that post. So could GJ Kinney be telling guys to come to Oklahoma State? Who knows, man? But in this world where you're grasping for some straws and you're looking at flights and all of this, it is kind of interesting that particular commit strategically liked that statement about, are we getting some of GJ guys in Stillwater? So maybe, just maybe, that means that there's a Kinney option. And again, we've taken some swings, but it's always seemingly come back to Zach Robinson and GJ Kinney.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with both. To be honest with you, I think GJ is a program builder. He's proven that. His recruiting acumen has been pretty daggone good at Texas State. It should be able to prove dramatically at Oklahoma State. But Zach Robinson is a hardcore Cowboy that has expressed interest in this job. And he's already said that I would send the Des Bryants and the Tatum Bells and the Russell Okungs of the world to go out and recruit on behalf of Oklahoma State. So I think both of those would be good options. But I like Alex Golesh too, right? And I like the fact that Alex Golesh coached at Oklahoma State. He was a GA during the Mason Rudolph, James Washington, Justice Hill, Chris Carson days. So he does have some Cowboy connections. And I think any of the 3 would be options. I did not like us taking swings at Gus Malzahn. I wasn't a big fan of having a couple donors really push for Dana Holgorsen. I kind of liked the media idea of John Gruden, but I think he has too many parallels that are reminiscent of Mike Gundy for that to potentially work from a marketability standpoint. So I don't know. Before we get to the next segment, do you think that Oklahoma State is likely to have a mass exodus at some point in time? Is that natural, or do you think that somehow we could keep most of this roster together contingent upon the next coach?
I think it's more likely the latter, because kids that pick Oak State are usually looking for something a little different. It's a small cow town. It's a different gig.
Yep.
Like if you want the real big college experience and all that, you might go to Miami or SC or even Georgia or Florida. Like those are true college towns. They're a little bigger. Right. Oak State's different. So a lot of those kids are going to at least wait to see. And like GJ played at Tulsa. You know what I mean? Like he's a guy right down the road. That's like what, an hour from where?
Right. And his wife is a TU grad as well.
Oh, okay. So that really kind of fits. And he's an East Texas guy. His dad was an East Texas high school coach. Yep. So I don't think there's any doubt that they're going to wait, because if they haven't gotten in already, it's not like Gundy got fired yesterday.
Right.
I thought I was going to see 10 to 12 guys within 7-8 days.
Correct.
And it didn't happen. So that tells me that give some credit to the people in the office, A, and B, the administration. They've done something right.
Dude, you nailed it. Like, again, the fellas that I'm talking to, all of them want to stay, but they're not sure what it's going to look like or how it's going to work. There has been some nefariousness in regards to the NIL conversations in Stillwater that some players are not exactly happy about. But, yeah, there is a group of dudes that still care more about Oklahoma State than they do on what's on the back of their jersey. And I think that's huge for Oklahoma State moving forward, just like it's also huge for us to move forward so we can knock out segment 3 here. We have to begin today to talk about something that is very beneficial to you, which is going to be Game Time. It's hard sometimes to get tickets, and sometimes getting tickets is more difficult than the battle your team is facing on the field. But this is a way for you to make it more exciting, right? We know the tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands is unprecedented compared to everything else in every other sport. That's precisely why you got to use Game Time. This is the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. The app makes it super simplistic. You can even see the exact view from your seat before you purchase, so there's no ridiculousness of getting in the wrong section at the wrong time with the wrong people. You're going to love the zone deals, too. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seat for you, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of you buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create that code, LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. It's simple. You swipe, tap, get the ticket, go, and download Game Time today. Last but not least, make sure you go support your local neighborhood with Square. There's definitely a business around you that rocks with Square. This is your favorite neighborhood spot because they run off of Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood better. These are the places that become an extension of your home, whether it's a sports bar dedicated to your favorite team, or the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or it could just be the beloved local chain that you've always rooted for in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the entire neighborhood can thrive alongside one another. Sports are something that brings neighborhoods together, of course. So whether it's gathering for a game day ritual, celebrating the best wings in town, or just being a part of the fan base that calls this place home, take advantage of the community around you that utilizes Square, because it'll be money spent in your neighborhood that stays in your neighborhood. Square is a proud partner of over 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. I like to go rock with the local Safeway up the road there. They know what I like. They're always waiting on me with a smile, and I cannot wait to go back to buy more groceries every time. That's how they get you. It's the neighborhood atmosphere run off of Square that builds everything for you. Okay, buddy. Before we skedaddle on out of here, the bipolar Big 12, as I affectionately like to call it, it seems to be that the race is kind of taking some shape, but as Cincinnati just proved over a win over a ranked Iowa State squad, that this conference still is fairly reminiscent to what it was last year, which is a cannibalization conference where number 15, well, I was going to say number 16 could beat number 1, but that's us, and we ain't beating number 1 right now. So number 15 in this conference could compete with number 1. I don't know that there's another conference that does that, but in your perspective, is Texas Tech just running away with this thing, or is there still going to be some bipolar Big 12 that pops up and bites them as well?
I think they're going to run the table.
Okay.
Because I don't think anybody's going to run the football on them very consistently. They literally bought themselves a Big 12 title because the quarterback play, by the way, give them props. That game against Utah, the freshman came in. That kid's good.
Yeah.
Like that's a kid that they got out of Austin that got no fanfare. Like UT didn't sniff him. A lot of people would be real happy with that kid right now. So they're going to do diligence with that. And then the D-line they've got a few NFL guys. And that's like you and I have argued, like, I think the ACC is better than the Big 12 because it's a top heavier, but like balance, Big 12 is always better. This year, you could argue either way for the Big 12 because quarterback play is so much better. Might be the best quarterback league in years, period. It's crazy how good it is. And then you finally have got a team like Tech is going to get a bye.
Yeah.
They're going to run the table. Like that.
Well, so
that's what I think anyway.
You mentioned nobody might be able to run on them, but BYU is technically number 1 in the Big 12, and BYU has a backup fullback number on the quarterback that can run. So maybe number 47 for the BYU Cougs could give Texas Tech some troubles. But I'm with you. I don't necessarily see it, and I think that also accentuates the trouble that Oklahoma State is going through because by my math, just based off the players that I do know and what they make, I came up to Oklahoma State spending about $13 million. There was a report a couple weeks ago that said we spent like 15, and then there was another one that came out like yesterday or 2 days ago that spent we like 14. So I was pretty much dead on that 13, 14-ish range, and we are horrendous. So it's not a matter of the money. It's a matter of spending the money in the right places, in the right ways. And for what Texas Tech is accomplishing right now, I think it is beneficial to the rest of the Big 12 because there's the blueprint. Do you have to spend $30 million? No, probably not. But you do have to at least find the right talent that you are going to give that money in order to be successful. And you see it out of Cincinnati. I guarantee you, or I can't guarantee, I'm pretty positive Cincinnati did not spend $14 million on the roster. They probably spent 11-ish, maybe, right? And their coaching is precisely why they're in the position they are now. And ironically, that's what Mike Gundy used to be, right? Mike Gundy used to be the dude that got all the 2 stars that nobody wanted. And schematically, him and Dana Holgerson and Todd Monken, they were going to put their players into positions to be successful. They were going to counter the numerical advantage of the defense with schematic advantages offensively. That is dead in Stillwater, just like Cowboy culture seemingly is kind of dead in Stillwater at the moment. I will say from the chaos perspective, and then I want your take. Do you think Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, Arizona State even, do they have enough talent to make a run at Texas Tech?
I think Arizona State would be the only one out of that I would look at. I watched some of the Tech Houston game. Houston doesn't have the players in the back end. They lost them all to the portal. And he's a heck of a coach.
He is.
Arizona State's got Levitt. That gives them a chance because he can put the ball on a dot.
Yeah.
In a one-game scenario, could they beat Tech? Yeah. Can they at least be close? Yeah. But they also lost to Mississippi State. Not a great look, brother.
Well, dude, okay. you were so good at this. Because that was my next question. In the Big 12 country, do we kind of need Tech to run the table or at least win the Big 12 title? Because Cincinnati lost to Nebraska. Arizona State lost to Mississippi State. Like those are looks that are really hard to get over, in my personal opinion. So if Arizona State were to win the conference or Cincinnati to win the conference, the national perception would be all negative. Am I wrong?
The only way I would look at that differently, you need Tech to run the table and then lose by 3 in the Big 12 title game to a 9-3 ASU. Because then this is where I don't like the automatic. Just hear me out.
Yeah, okay.
The automatic is garbage because there are times, and I'm not an SEC guy, but you can't tell me ASU is better than like the 5th place SEC team this year. Probably not. But if they win the league, they're going to end up, may not get a higher seed. They flip to how it works in the rankings, but they're going to automatically be in the top 12.
Right.
So
I think Arizona State could beat Texas this year for what it's worth.
I would take them straight up. I'd take them basically in the chance where Texas's backyard. It wouldn't make any difference. Texas
how is Arch Manning? How is Arch Manning this bad?
He makes one great throw here and there, then the turf leads him in receptions because a few games ago he had 10 in a row that he missed, Cody. Statistical fact.
No, I know. Like when you're watching Oklahoma State games with Zane Flores and then you flip over to the Texas game, unfortunately, it looks the same.
That's not a good sign.
Arch Manning is performing the same as Zane Flores, who, by the way, is out for a couple weeks now. So even our backup quarterback that was performing the worst in the Big 12, he's out. So, I mean, and we did put Banks Bowen, the Tulsa transfer, in the game, and he clearly is the speed of the game is a problem for him. So, in my opinion, the only avenue that we have is to go pure Wildcat with Sam Jackson, who thankfully was a Power 4 starting quarterback at Cal, and he played a decent number of games at quarterback at TCU. So our best offensive weapon might be our backup slot receiver that used to be a D1 quarterback.
I'm not even going to comment on that.
Well, and my point is Sam Jackson might put up a better performance than Arch Manning.
You only have to hit like 2 passes because Manning had that deep shot against Florida that was a beautiful throw. But how many did you go like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like Texas doesn't have a few good receivers, but whatever. It is what it is. I think Texas Tech is going to run away with the league. And one of two things is going to happen with the Big 12. There are going to be some other schools. Baylor should be one of them because they got a ton of money that are going to start ponying up. Maybe not quite to where Tech is. Tech's is about the highest roster in college football.
Right.
But they're going to have to spend more, or it's just going to be perpetually a one bid league. That's what's going to happen. And I know you don't want to hear that, but
I do not.
But do you disagree with what I'm saying? Like it's such a disparity right now. It's gross.
So I don't disagree, but it's for a little bit of a different reason, right? The talent in the Big 12, you could argue, is down this season, like even compared to last season outside of Texas Tech. But I think we might be a one bid league, but not always because of talent. I think sometimes there is going to be some political factors as to why the Big 12 doesn't get that. And that is something that we realize that we have to overcome. And if Texas Tech is going to be the flag bearer, I think we need that, right? I think the parity in the Big 12 is cool from a marketability, TV viewership landscape. But eventually, you got to have a team that is going to be a CFP member every single season, like OU was in the Big 12. All right, as much as I hate to say that dirty word, they were the flag bearer of the conference, right? So you knew every single year that OU was probably going to be a top 10 team no matter what happened. They were always going to win 10 to 11 games no matter what the other talent. And you mentioned earlier, we have a lot of quarterbacks in the league this year. That's always what the Big 12 was, right? It was always the Patrick Mahomes and the Mason Rudolphs and the Baker Mayfield and the Kyler Murrays. And even Texas Tech had some dudes like Dahey threw up big numbers. Kingsbury put up big numbers. Baylor had RG3. Baylor also had Petty. Iowa State had Brock Purdy. Now they have Rocco Beck. Like, this league has always been largely the quarterback-driven league. And this year, Oklahoma State doesn't have that, but Arizona State does. Bear Bachmeier is
trending.
Right. He's very athletic. He's very elusive. He seems pretty confident. He's the first freshman in the history of BYU who's had like Heisman Trophy level quarterbacks that has played as a true freshman. So perhaps they could make a stink. All right, before I let you skedaddle on off of here, with that in mind, who do you think is the best challenge for Texas Tech?
I would go with BYU because I think their defense is pretty consistent. Arizona State's close again because Leavitt.
Yeah.
He gives you a chance at any game. But consistently, week in, week out, if they played 5 times, BYU would probably beat them once because Bachmeier would make a throw. And their defense is pretty consistent. But I still think Tech is probably 7 to 10 points better than every team in the league. So that's just where it's at.
Well, hopefully, some of the rumors we're hearing is that donors that were very reluctant to give money under Gundy are now willingly being part of it. And part of it is because, let's be real, for 21 years, unless you were a Boone Pickens, you had no say. And you were never going to have any say because Mike Gundy doesn't run things that way. The donors that are coming out of the woodwork now, they're excited because they finally do have a say, right? Their money does have a little bit of a direct reflection on Oklahoma State now. But if we can get Tech money, that would be great. I don't know that we can, but you're right. They did put forth the model that if you want to be a top 5, top 10 level team, you got to spend in the 20s range. It doesn't have to be 28-30 like Tech, but I think you've got to be in that 17 to 23-ish range for you to have much of a chance.
If you're under 20, most of the time you're going to struggle. Now with Texas Tech where it's at, under 20 is almost impossible because they're the only team in the league that's got multiple D linemen. You're like, yeah, that guy's going to the league. That's the difference. It's the defensive line, and they bought it.
And Texas Tech has been bad at defense for 100 flipping years.
That's right.
Like even in their top years with Mahomes and even if you go back to the Red Raider himself, Mike Leach days, they never had a defense. Offensively, you knew they were going to put up 50 or 60 or 70. You knew they were going to have an NFL caliber quarterback, wide receiver, but they never had a defense. Now they have one of the best defenses in all of America. And it is because of NIL. It is because they identified and paid the right guys, unlike Oklahoma State and Florida State. So there's my piece. All right, buddy. Well, I greatly appreciate you coming on to do this. Your expertise is extremely helpful for me. And before we do skedaddle on off of here, let the fine folks know how they can find you, and then I have a fun little announcement.
Absolutely. You can find the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Podbean, or anywhere else. And you can also find me on Twitter, or formerly Twitter, now X, FB Scout_Florida. That's FB Scout_Florida. Love to have you.
My guy. Also, my guy in regards to Kappa. So Kappa is the College Athletics Players Association. We are doing a giveaway at homecoming. I'll be announcing it live. We have some other cool stuff that we're about to announce. I can say, if you're a fan of the Oklahoma City Thunder, you're going to want to tune in and you're going to want to come to this tailgate to ticket giveaway. So here's for everybody out there. And Brian, thank you very much for helping to kind of get involved with this, because I do think that the informational aspect for the guys coming up in the recruiting landscape are going to be massively beneficial to him.
Absolutely.
Oklahoma State is currently going through a scenario that if they had Kappa representation, they probably would be looking at a different scenario, but I'll leave that for a later date. For everybody out here, all you have to do to enter is go to the X account, follow College Athletics Players Association, share the story. That's an entry. Repost. That's another entry. Follow at Kappa Official. That's an entry. Follow at Coney Island Stillwater. That's an entry. Tag 3 friends, and that's an entry. What you will win is 2 VIP passes to the College Athletics Players Association / Coney Island homecoming tailgate against Cincinnati with some very, very special guests from right down the road in Oklahoma City. You also win 2 tickets, not just regular tickets. They're pretty special tickets that also come with a parking pass, and you also get a Coney Island gift card. So make sure that you show up for the Kappa tailgate that we're doing on homecoming. And Brian, buddy, I mean, I know you've got some things you got to take care of. You're kind of a busy dude, but if you could accidentally swing up there the 18th, I mean, I don't think we'd be mad at you. I know my Kappa people definitely are interested in everything that you have to say. They're intrigued by what you could potentially help in these lines. So thank you very, very much for having the knowledge and being a voice for the athletes, because that's what this is about, right? I love Oklahoma State. I bleed orange. I will fight people for saying negative things about Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy. Yeah, I will. Okay. But at the end of the day, I think my relationships with the players are more important than anything else. And I got to play a little bit of college athletics. My son is going through the recruiting process right now. And I'm very well aware that there are some things that these players are not privy to that they should be. So thank you for everything that you're doing. If you can make it up here on the 18th, feel free to give me a holler, brother, man. Brian, you're a gem. You're the dude that I go to for all recruiting news. So I appreciate what you do. For all you fine folks out here, that's all we're going to have for this one. Do us a favor. Go hit the like button, share, comment, and subscribe. You can hit the dislike button too if you want to. This is a free country. You're allowed to do so. The podcast and people out there, thank you very much, because without you, none of this would work. So go do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. All righty, everybody. Thank you for making this your first listen on the crossover edition with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Brian Smith. Thank you, everybody. Go check out Kappa. Go come see us at the homecoming tailgate. Later, taters.